Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, can we have a roll call, please?
Ken Gambala,
Yes.
Vanessa Merkel,
Present.
Robert Zaney,
I am present, thank you.
Brian Blazak,
Present.
Joe Wisawati.
Present.
All right, we're all here. Okay, did the board members get a chance to take a look at the minutes from the March 15th meeting? If so, what's your pleasure?
I'll move that we pass move the minutes for March 15th as posted.
Okay, we have a motion.
I second the motion to pass the meetings.
Okay, we have second motion. So, can we have a, all in favor, say aye for approval? Aye. Okay, motion carries. Minutes are approved. Okay, moving on the agenda, we're going to get everybody up to speed for the stormwater rate study review that was done previously. We like to welcome Senator Dalton and Robinson Engineering here to give us an update. So whoever wants to go first, I guess it's you.
All right.
You're A on the list.
I may approach the podium if that's all
Yes,
right.
please.
All right.
Thank you.
Jason, is this mic on? Okay. All right, so I just handed out the September rate studies that we put together last September, of course. So my name is Daniel Dalton. I'm with Senator Dalton, of course. And as the first order of business on this agenda item, I would like to review the history and the background of this rate study, and just kind of explain what happened, why we're here today discussing and reviewing the same report that we talked about last fall. So last fall, our firm, in conjunction with Robinson Engineering, put together, was asked to prepare this rate study to determine the necessary fee that should be implemented to cover the cost of MS4 compliance and other capital improvement expenditures. So after a series of board meetings, there was no final decision agreed upon, and therefore the project stalled. And so before I dive into the study itself, I want to ask all of you if there's any questions related to kind of where we started and where we got to and why we're here today.
I presently don't have any. Anybody else?
All right, so I'll dive right in here. So the first couple of pages here are really just an introduction of the purpose of implementing a stormwater rate fee. Basically, stormwater fees are implemented to cover the cost of revenue, cover the costs of operational and stormwater capital improvement expenditures that have been previously identified within the town. So as I jump into this, I would direct your attention to page number 3 of this report, where we identify several significant assumptions. First off being that when putting this report together, we used the department's capital budget for the basis of our cost service study. Number 2, we used the rate structures based on the Indiana property code classifications that are residential, commercial, industrial, etc. And then this is more of a recommendation, but we recommended to implement the fee on the county property tax bills instead of the monthly utility bills that go out from the clerk treasurer's office. First reason being this would lessen the burden on the clerk's office, and 2, it would allow the town to collect nearly 100% of the stormwater fee. Whereas monthly utility bills, those could kind of get lost in translation. You can't lien those as easily. All right, so moving on, I'm going to go to the following page, which is Appendix A-1. This schedule describes the pro forma expenses that would be in effect once we have a stormwater fee implemented. Specifically, this first piece of the schedule is operation and maintenance expenses for roughly $200,000. The second chunk would be MS4 compliance related items for $224,000. And the third option are those other / miscellaneous items for about $930,000. For the grand total estimated cost for stormwater management coming out to $1.35 million. So this is just the basis moving into the next couple of pages. So if we go to Appendix A-2 on the next page, you will see that this schedule describes the equipment costs and replacement after depreciation and the department shares for each piece of equipment. So we have trucks, we have sweepers, we have a sewer jet vac. And so when I say department share, the stormwater fee, if this were implemented, this department would pay 50% for that sewer jet vac, and another department would pay the other 50%. All right. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. Moving on to Appendix A3, the next page. This is a schedule of stormwater projects, rehab projects, and just general storm projects.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Got a back question here. This cost of replacement depreciation of equipment, are you saying that this is going to be out of the stormwater costs?
Excuse me?
Where is this going into? Because this is also used for sanitary sewer work and street work and
Yes.
all this equipment here.
Yes.
So there's going to be a percentage of this depreciation then going into the stormwater, right?
Yes, just this percentage that you see here would be
That's
going
what I'm
into
saying,
stormwater.
'cause
Mhm.
It's not going to be out of one pocket.
Correct. Yeah, and that's a good question. Okay, in A3, you see, like I just said, the schedule of projects over a 5-year period. And these were proposed in conjunction with Robinson Engineering last year. Now, one note that I may add is that these numbers are always subject to change. So this report was prepared 6 months ago. Today, we could see them be a little bit higher due to inflationary or market trends, conditions, things like that. So this is a good starting point and should be evaluated accordingly. So as I move into the next 3 exhibits, I wanted to run through those schedules real quick because those 3 define the equipment costs, the estimated costs of the projects and everything like that to build into some of the rates that we proposed. So let's move on to the following page, which is Exhibit A. So as you see here, this is a 5-year estimate of our operational, our MS4 compliance, our equipment, our other capital projects just built out in easy to read 5-year schedule. So this is just the anticipated expenditures. And then you see we have a 5-year average and a maximum annual capital cost.
And we're likely to be pushing this to 2024, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
So what if we redo this rate study, then we will, of course, push this from 2024 through 2028. Because that'll be 24 would be the first time you would see any of these fees.
Correct.
All right, so Exhibit B on the next page. This describes the 4 rate options that were proposed.
Pass it this year, they'll collect money beginning next year. Yeah. June would be the first batch of money we can get in June of 2024. Sorry, we're having a sidebar down here, guys.
That's okay. So Exhibit B describes the 4 options, and we collected the number of parcels under each different type of property class from the county, I believe. Or this was from the county, yes. And then plugged in the number of parcels into our annual fee to get to the annual total that the town would see for each property class. So you see option A is $650,000, option B $930,000, C is just over 1 million, and D is 1.35 million. So this is a summary.
So I know, I don't want to throw a curveball at you, but I'm gonna. So with respect to properties that are single-family homes that are not yet sold. So in other words, they're still owned by the developers. Are they going to be paying this fee, or is that payable upon the transfer of the
So would the
property?
developer?
Yeah, or
be-
on occupancy, that's what I'm thinking of.
Your question is, would the developer be paying for those unsold homes?
The lots and everything. So let's say
Yes.
he had 110 lots. You know, they're currently not sold, they're working to develop those. Is that something that he's gonna pay, or is that due on a certificate of occupancy? That was my question.
I believe it would fall on the developer as the burden. And that's something I'd be happy to look into.
Yeah, because I don't know how that's gonna work. You know.
Okay. Yeah.
Be
Yeah,
complicated.
that's actually a good question,
Yeah.
Joe. Yeah, if you
Okay.
can look into that.
Jonathan, you have had this, correct? With developers working with Maryville or whatnot? Do they
Yeah.
charge developers, or how does
It's
that
my
work?
understanding that until a lot is sold to, let's say,
A
home
builder
buyer,
or a homeowner?
or a builder or a home buyer, whoever is holding the title would be paying a fee. And once it transfers to a builder, let's say a builder comes in and buys 5 lots out of that 110, then until he resells those to a homeowner, he would be responsible. And
Which
then-
makes sense because we do send the bill to the owner mailing address.
Yeah, and then once a home buyer then owns, has a closing, then they would get the tax bill, and the fee would be on there. That's my understanding, so I think you basically said that.
Yeah, thanks for-
I threw
yeah.
a separate,
Clarification on how
another
that-
step
that
in there.
That's
works.
helpful, yeah, thank you.
I just want to get clarification on it, because I know we're gonna get questions about that.
Okay.
I know we're gonna get questions on
Yeah,
that.
the big thing, I think, what the way this approach is that even vacant land will pay a fee.
And it'll be essentially the same vacant, I mean, actually, no, it would be less.
Yeah, it would be something less, but because everything has runoff, the theory is that everyone pays.
Everyone pays,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, everyone is eligible to receive a stormwater fee depending on what their property is classified as. Okay,
Sorry, didn't mean to derail.
No, that's
the
okay.
Train, but
that's a good question, and I'm happy to have conversations about these too. So, last but not least, I want to flip to the last page of this report, which is Exhibit C. And so this is a summary of everything we just went through, but at the bottom it shows you the net revenue over expenditure for each of the 4 options that were proposed. Now, what I should mention is that the expenses here, the uses of funds listed here, are treated as the maximum amount that we could or would pay. And for example, if you choose option A, your revenue is going to be about $650,000. Your total project cost based here is $1.34 million, 1.35. We would need to
source.
we would need to cut back roughly $700,000 within that first year to be able to afford just the base, and we don't want to bankrupt this fund $700,000 in the first year of its implementation by expending all of this in that 1 year. So that's my recommendation moving forward. We would like to have a recommendation from this board probably in 2 to 3 months that we could take to council and say, hey, the Stormwater Board recommended X, and we can even tinker with these numbers too, just to reminder that these options here are not static. they can change, and I'm happy to work on a new rate study.
They're exactly what they are, options. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
we can work with that, yes.
Mhm.
What are these monthly fees based on industry, commercial? Are they actually calculations, the pervious, impervious, or are they just a number? Just because they're industrial, they'll pay more? I mean, we got to justify
That's precisely
it
it.
somehow. So
Yes,
someone's
so-
gonna come in here, commercial, and say, look, I'm just sitting in a little building sitting here in the middle of Strachan Van Til's parking lot,
Right.
paying
So
more than somebody's got 2 acres over here residential.
right. So you're correct. That is how it's calculated. Industrial taxpayers will pay more. They generally use more acreage, anyways, and so we want to. We've devised a good pattern here, in our opinion, that moves the burden between the different types of property classifications.
It's not scientific numbers, it's more just on bigger pockets, in other words.
Well, yes and no. That's a hard question to answer.
And I, just to get back to the timing, I would like to get the recommendation finalized and approved, so that way we know where we're going with respect to our budget. So I'd like to do it before July if we could, for sure.
So
Yeah.
just a closing statement here. If you want me to create a revised rate study that's more updated through middle of April, maybe even May 1st, then I can present that in front of you here in next month's meeting, and then we could potentially have a discussion about an option that you want to choose on.
Right, 'cause-
I would say, in my opinion, I think let's look at the current numbers, that way we can better judge.
yeah.
Any thoughts or any other comments?
And then we could tighten up the number, I mean, because they're making a recommendation to the council based on, the information that we have.
Right.
I don't think it's going to be horribly off in terms of
No, I don't think so. And
sense.
and
So,
we can discuss.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Is there also a cutoff time for when it can be on the tax bill, or like when is that deadline?
The deadline
I
to
think
put it
it's-
on the tax bill is the end of October. We would like to have your recommendation at least 2 to 3 months before then,
And,
but
well, we'd
preferably
like to
June.
get it, yeah, we'd like to get it in June, only because we got budget, we're going into budget.
Yes.
So we want to have a budget set up and ready to go for July, for January 1. Because
Yes,
we're going to
yeah.
be really into the trenches, me and him, and in July, going through the budget numbers with the clerk treasurer's office. And it's a long process. It's not something easy.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Sure.
Dan, would you explain just for public consumption what these numbers actually mean, option A, B, C, and D? People are gonna see these numbers, and they're gonna see minus 700,000, let's round it, 690, we're gonna round $700,000 loss the first year, okay? And what has to be understood is the second, option B, is still 414 in the hole. Option C is still 300 grand in the hole. Option 4, which is, I would assume, the highest rate, is a break even or less, because there's no guarantee any of these forecast numbers are holding water. So basically, what this document says before you update it is that the first 4 years is working at way less than break even.
You make a good point, but I also did mention that these uses of funds, these anticipated expenditures, are not necessarily what we have to spend
I
year over year.
understand.
So we can make cuts.
Oh, absolutely, we would have to.
We would have to,
can't
yes.
survive with this.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify was, these numbers, for all intent and purposes, if you try and accomplish the things that are outlined, option D, you're at break even or less, depending on, yes, we can cut, we don't have to buy certain pieces of equipment, but we're gonna have to do it
Well,
to get the
Right.
job done.
Right.
what it's gonna come down to is you're gonna have to pick and choose what projects you wanna take off the
Exactly,
agenda.
exactly.
And then basically what you end up doing is just, you're kicking the can on this stuff. So, and we've kicked the can for, I don't know how many years.
20
but-
years.
Yeah, it's time we stop kicking the can.
Oh,
and
no, no,
start
no, I'm totally understanding.
Facing reality
Yeah.
is what it's coming down to. You know, Bob wants to get this stuff done, I get it. I mean, you know, we've been operating on a shoestring budget for MS4 for years, and it's just not,
Right.
it's not sustainable.
And you're looking at a fee of $5 at the lowest to $10 at the highest for residential household. It's not astronomical numbers
Yeah.
we're asking here.
I
It's-
think John has a,
I just want to add in here, just to give you an example of, and it's a little bit of what Brian is suggesting, that if the fee was set lower, let's say, and there's a shortfall from the projected numbers, it means you would have to pick and choose. But just to tell you that the expenditures continue on even last year and even this year. Just for example, just on MS4, last year, by the end of December, there was an expenditure of $44,000. And just through March of this year, it's almost $23,000. So the expenses to meet the requirements and the mandates from the state.
For compliancy.
Yes.
This is
yes,
for
yeah.
compliance. They keep going, and there still is no fee, so it has to be covered another way. So that's just
It's being covered out of our general fund,
general
is it
budget.
not, Joe?
Yeah.
Cume
is.
sewer, I think.
It's a
The sewer.
cum sewer,
right.
yeah.
Cumulative sewer.
Essentially, it's a tax. You know,
Of
you're
course.
paying tax money to sustain this.
Yeah.
And, you know, to take the burden off of that, you know, it's gonna allow the sewer department to purchase the vac truck that we need. That's, you know, $400,000. So, yeah, I mean,
And also, it's infrastructure. I
Yeah.
mean, it's 1,000 feet of storm pipe at 1,000 linear feet is approximately 100 grand to put in the ground. So it's
and we got a lot of linear feet.
yes,
Yeah.
a lot.
And the drainage complaints continue to roll in.
Yes,
sure.
those don't stop either.
No.
Question.
Sure.
Do you think if you ran this study again, then there would be a big difference, small difference? I mean, how
You know,
much
that's something
inflation?
I'd have to discuss with Robinson just to see where some of these projects sit today.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd have to look.
'Cause it's been roughly 6 months.
Yeah, it's been 6 months, and there's been some inflation. It might be relatively not far above what it is now in the projections.
Mhm.
Because we might have more information on some things that have been done that were on the original list, because they were in that $44,000 already. So
Right.
some things might be able to be removed, but it might end up close. So it's hard to say without really sitting down and looking at it, so,
well, I think that's a good idea.
So maybe
is to
assume-
Make it current and,
Yeah.
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 Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, that's all I had on my piece, and we will plan to create a revised rate study that I can present next month.
Is the utilities and railroad, is that really feasible? Are you can collect from them?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah. mhm.
Okay, because
Yes, other towns do it,
Yeah.
yes.
A lot of water runs down the side of those.
I realize what happens. It's just
That is
trying
true.
to- You're dealing with, corporations that are across the country, so.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you.
Daniel, thank you very
Daniel,
much.
thank
Appreciate
Thanks, Dan.
it. All right, John?
Do you want me to up at the podium, or?
No, you got a mic.
I got a mic. Okay. I was going to go through the projection numbers, but Dan covered those in his report. I don't want to rehash those, but I do want to point out some of the items that are ongoing. In fact, we just got a report update today. I know Bob.
I shared it with the board.
Oh, great.
They
So-
have it
So they have
in their
that.
papers.
So, in there it lists, and if you just turn to the last page, you'll see upcoming work in April and then May through June. You know, it's an extensive list, and one of the biggest things on here, other than some of the reports, and a facility SWIP, which SWIP means Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, is updating the ordinance. And I know we've had discussions and I want to get the exact acronym here for you because we'll rattle this acronym off. PCBMPs, that's Post-Construction Best Management Practices. And under the new permit, they made a lot of new requirements for that. So even after a site is built, after the homes are there, there's an ongoing post-construction inspections that right now, I know Bob is understaffed for this, but it means even existing developments should be regularly inspected to make sure erosion's not happening, sediment is not going downstream or into the adjacent property or something like that. So as part of that, we do need to make some ordinance revisions, so.
And is that something that's gonna end up hitting the subdivision and control ordinance as well, or?
Yes, yeah, yes. So I'm asking Mr. Chairman Bob here, at next month's meeting, we would like to do a presentation, not a presentation, more like an explanation of what this requirement is and what it's going to mean for some ordinance changes. So I think we'll have like Susan or Dana come and talk about that with some slides. So to make it very clear for your board
I think
of
that's a great
exactly
idea.
what it is. It seems like that ordinance, and you can correct me if that's not the right procedure, but the approval of any ordinance changes would first start here, and then that would be recommended to town council.
No, for the subdivision control ordinance,
It would-
that's gotta go to the plan
Plan
commission.
commission,
Yeah.
okay.
They gotta have a public hearing and all
Okay,
that
well, that was one of our internal questions, so that
But they,
answered.
they could recommend to them.
To
To
them,
look it up,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
And then it
So, yeah,
carries
for-
through. Okay.
I do think the drainage board should be well aware of what it is, because it hits your department, and
Yeah.
so, but, yeah, okay.
I think that would be a good idea, especially in the timeframes that we're talking about and coming up with the recommendations and on or before July. So, yeah, if you can program that in, John, for next month's
Yeah,
meeting.
I can
that would be
get
good.
that rolling, and, just I don't wanna overly gloss your eyes over here, I just wanna point out just a few things of what to be expecting is with the permitting and what we're calling MS4 routinely, and if you don't know that acronym, it's Municipal Separate Sewer System, and I know a lot of times
Storm
we-
sewer system.
Storm sewer system,
Yes.
yeah, separate storm sewer system, so, see, I even forget one of the S words in there, because it's.
There's 4 of them.
There's
There's four of them.
yes. But there's standard operating procedures, there's operation and maintenance procedures, good housekeeping. That would be everything that Public Works does to manage their facility, their yard, the salt dome, everything, all these procedures. They want everything spelled out, written out. They want all the staff trained on these things, which we are doing tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, we're doing a training session with Public Works. So Bob said, well, we had to bribe them with donuts, but, you know, it's okay. No, I'm teasing, of course, but
No, he's not.
if you feed them, they will come. But no, training is always good. You want all staff to be able to spot things as they're doing, if they're out doing something else, but they see an MS4 related issue, they can at least report it, get it addressed. So, but there's illicit discharge elimination and detection, which requires outfall screenings, and that should be on a 5-year cycle. And the list goes on and on. So
And all these things John's talking about are just for compliance.
Just for
This
compliance,
has nothing to
so-
do with storm projects, a storm drain
Right.
being repaired,
Compliance, yeah.
pipe
Yeah.
being fixed,
and
nothing.
this is like, okay, it comes out of Washington, comes to the state of Indiana, it comes to the towns, but it's unfunded.
Yeah.
You figure out how to pay for all this, but you must do it. That's, in a
Exactly.
nutshell,
Unfunded
this type of
mandates.
program. So
Yeah.
that's why the utility fee is being looked at, so. And then if we get into storm sewer or stormwater projects, you know, mentioned complaints a bit ago. Well, you know, a resident calls in to Bob Davis, Public Works Director, hey, I got flooding. We go out there and we find out, well, it could use a new inlet and a new storm sewer and an upsizing somewhere, but we have no budget to really do a project like that. That might be $100,000. It has to go on a back burner. We do maybe a little fix. We say, keep your inlet free of debris or something like that. But in the meantime, they still see the effects of it. And so it ties our hands on doing more things like that. And on the list, there was one really large project that was over 700,000, I believe, but we stretched it over 2 years, so.
Is it the storm sewer on the, what's the name of that road? It sounds familiar.
Reyes Villa, Caliph's Addition,
Caleb's.
Oakwood
It's-
Drive.
It's North
Yeah.
Oakwood and South Oakwood in that area.
Yeah, where they don't have storm sewer?
Everything discharges onto the road and then
They just get slimy
ices
roads?
and,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we want to get rid of the slime, so
Yeah.
that would be a good idea.
I'm sure the residents would appreciate that too.
Yeah, so that's just an example, and there may be more things, so.
Yeah, if I could make just a quick recommendation that Daniel, if you could put together a timeline for.
Of course.
For public hearings, recommendations to the council, when this has got to be done with the county, when we get our first, tax draw, all of that. So that way everyone understands we're all on the same page and we're all moving in that direction. So that way they know when our drop dead dates are, public hearings for the fees implementation and all that. So that would be great. If you could
Yes,
take care
yes,
of
I'll
that.
put that together. Yes. Okay.
Very good.
And if any questions come to mind, even after tonight, just get with us and we can try to get answers. Or if it pertains to Senator Dalton's study, just, please.
Don't they have any grant money out there for any of this stuff?
you have to
You
have a stormwater fee
Yeah.
in order
In
to
place.
apply for grant money.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's assume we get the grant money. The reason why I was asking is because it's a $700,000 project. That's a big project.
Yes.
So if we can get some kind of funding, I don't know.
You can apply for grants.
yes, yeah, they like, the grant overseers like to see an ability to match at the local level, like, skin in the game, if you want to
Right,
call
right.
it that.
But what I'm saying is, in '24, we've got the money coming in, to have, that project started. And if we get a 50% match, that's 50% we don't have, so,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Utilize that funding somewhere else.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
you get more for what you are collecting, you
Because
can make it.
I know that's been around for years.
Oh, a long time. As long as it's over 20.
Yeah.
Kenny knows how long it's been.
Yeah.
It's been there. I
I
mean,
mean,
it's-
when I first got here, that was on my radar to get that.
Yeah.
That started and done, and, we're still haven't even done anything on it, really.
yeah, that road's a nightmare in the wintertime. Absolute nightmare.
So I think that gives you a good background.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
One thing I see us having to do, whether we have a resident up at the microphone, whether before us or the town council, who eventually, elected official has to impose a fee, is to explain to them why all of a sudden they're getting a fee for stormwater. All these years didn't have to, okay? You're gonna have to tell them, what is MS4 in layman's terms? Why is it required? Why are we having to do this? Why is this? Why is that? See,
And I would
we
love to.
understand it because we're involved with it, but you're gonna have to put together some kind of dog and pony show.
Well, I
But
think
the
we
people out
did
there-
do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna happen
To
again
your
when
point.
it's gonna
Yeah.
happen when the actual fee is starting to be
Oh,
imposed.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
absolutely.
was a public hearing.
We did have the dog and
But
pony
that's
show,
not
and that's
gonna be
exactly
over
what it
with, yeah.
was. It really was a dog and pony
Yeah,
show.
okay.
Certain people were
But it's
invited
gonna
to
be a
come
hard
and
sell.
make hay, and
We gotta have a good
You
hard
can still
sell.
pull up the video, because that's how I was able
Yeah.
to catch up, so
Yes.
you can still go on and check it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Even tonight, Kenny, I mean, I have no problem saying this has been swept under the rug for the last 20 years. And,
Or swept into the
and,
ditch.
and future town managers and councils didn't want to implement a fee, and it's something that needs to be done just for compliancy issues.
I'm not arguing that. I'm
No,
just saying
I'm just vocalizing
that
because
have
this
been
is
there.
recorded and they can watch
most
this,
of them
so.
have just moved into town in the last couple of
Right.
years. They didn't, any of this
Bob,
history.
remind us, yeah, if you would, fill in the fact that there are penalties
Oh, there's,
Signed by the state
Yeah,
that are
I-
quite enormous.
I was getting
These are the
there.
things that we have to use
Right.
for
We've
ammunition,
got to do them. We
to
don't
explain
have a
to them.
And if we don't stay compliant with the state and IDEM, the EPA, NPDS permits, all this stuff, we have been very lucky that we have not had anyone knocking on our doors asking, hey, can we go check out this area? And large fines were attached with those. We're not doing anything wrong. We're doing everything we can with what we have.
Right.
And the only way we can get better is by implementing a fee and be able to do things like that. Because if you don't stay with the compliancy and educate the public, train employees, test outfalls, retention ponds, detention ponds, you can maintain retention and detention ponds. We could do a lot more work with just by implementing a fee and staffing people.
So you're speaking to the choir, but that.
No, I get it. I just
What you
wanted to
just
explain
said
it. Yeah.
is something that you need to explain to the
I
people.
and I would
that's gonna
would have
to
no
be-
problem.
And again, the council's gonna have a public
Right.
hearing on this,
Right.
so, you know, and.
I understand. Yeah.
Do you remember what
Number
date
of
that
parcels will be different.
presentation was given? So if they ask, you can be like, you can click on this link and watch the whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's on recording.
Right. Yeah, we're.
I can't recall the date
I
exactly.
don't know off the
Okay.
top of
Well,
my
I was
head,
just
but
saying
yeah,
so
you're
they
right.
could-
it's
You would
there.
think I would remember, but I do not.
I believe it was in September.
Yeah,
September.
I was able to.
October.
October? Okay.
October.
How do I know?
But yes, yes. I mean, you're right, Kenny.
Something as
They need
simple
that.
as when we implemented, I was on the council and implemented the garbage pickup fee.
Right.
The room was filled.
Right before the election.
Well, why do we have to pay for garbage pickup, you know? The town should do that. Out of their,
That's the only
we
reason. I
pay
remember,
taxes,
right before the
Yes.
election.
right? Don't you hear it all the time?
Like 2 months long. It was long.
Okay.
So I just have, a question for my own knowledge, I guess, and thought I'd bring it up now. So with all of this documentation that is required, is this, do you use software for that? Is it all paperwork? And how do you put it all together, and then how do the submittals work?
Both. Robinson is assisting me with that since I am new to the MS4 side in the administrative part of it. And we're catching up with our annual reports and everything that we need to do. And you have to have a paper file, and IDEM wants to see it electronically as well.
Okay.
So when they come in, you literally have to either click on it or show them the physical form.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and a lot of it, a lot of items that they are interested in, you need to have on GIS, on your atlases, and so that's because they want to know, if they want to look at something.
they wanna know which
it's
way that water
identified
runs,
And where,
absolutely.
and they want to make sure the town knows its own systems too, so they're looking for that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of parts and components and
Lot.
things that are part of it, so,
Yeah.
thank you for, what you do and keeping the town moving.
Oh, you're welcome.
1 man horse and pony show. It's sad. It is sad.
All right, John.
I carry a carriage behind me.
John, did you have anything
Sometimes it feels
else?
like
Another attaboy, Bob.
Just a request or an ask to be put on the next agenda.
Sure, absolutely.
To
We'll-
address the ordinance items that are needed.
Yeah.
And just up front to let you know, there's no way to really meet the deadline for the ordinance, which is July. It's supposed to be enforced by then. Our timeline won't be able to meet that just due to all the,
Right, because you're talking May going into June for the public hearing, so you're not even having your public hearing till probably June.
yeah. So we're gonna report that to the state and tell them.
There's motion.
Yeah, yeah.
And communications,
Yeah.
yes.
We'll tell them what our estimated schedule is, that it's being worked on, that it's being addressed. It's just, regime change, different logistical things are causing it to be delayed, so, yeah.
All right,
If we show good faith, the states has been very kind to us.
yeah, no.
For now.
For now.
That's why I said what I just said.
I know.
Gotta keep them happy,
We don't
that's
want
for
to
sure.
press our luck, yes.
And communication is the key to
Yes.
it all, so that's good.
And then I want to reiterate that I will put together a timeline for all of us so we can keep track of the process here and try to stay on track all the next steps.
So, would it be possible then to have you on next month as well, or do you need to talk about some things?
Do we need,
Joe?
are you gonna have anything new to present, or?
Well, I would, maybe not next month, but I would like to present an updated rate study.
Yeah.
In June.
Maybe 2 months?
No,
No,
next month.
next month.
The
Okay.
reason being is we gotta go to the council, that's.
Right, so that's why I was saying maybe
Yeah.
next month we just
So
go
I would
ahead
like
and-
to have a recommendation, if possible,
Yes,
At the June.
for their May meeting. So if we could get them the study sooner, so they could kind of go through that, so if they have any questions, that's fine. That way, they can make the recommendation in May, the council can consider it in June, and then they can act on it, you know, in July, and that way we're, you know, within compliance. It gives us a 90-day window, and I think that's probably more than enough time.
all right, I agree.
Yeah. Because I just want to make sure that when we start our budget process, we know where the numbers are, we can plug those in.
Right.
And we're ready to roll.
Okay, makes sense, very good. And John, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you both.
Yeah, I appreciate the updates.
Sorry,
To-
Daniel, I didn't mean to give you more work, but.
Public comment?
Is there any other old business, new business that we need to discuss?
Nope.
Okay, seeing none. Any public comment? Any public comment?
The public has just walked in.
Seeing none, we'll move on. Any other reports, correspondences?
No, we're just out doing inspections as much as we can. I mean, we're just, and staying with compliancy. I mean, our hands are tied until we make a decision.
This is something the town has wrestled with for years because of money. I mean, in 1994, we established the Storm Drainage Board. We had one person, it was Glenn Eberly, Rick Eberly's father.
Wow.
He was our zoning administrator. We didn't have a town manager. And he says, okay, but where do I start? And I says, we don't have any money.
Get this job done.
So he started putting some things together, and Public Works did it out of their budget. Okay? But we have so much of this town realized that a big percentage of the town this way and that goes back to the time when storm sewers were not required. I don't have any storm sewers in my subdivision. My sump pump runs out on the ground, and the street water just goes down till it hits the end, makes a turn, and finally hits the next catch basin 2 blocks away. That's the reality of it in this town. But and again, it's a thing of money, and I'm, you know, playing the devil's advocate. I've been people coming in from a room saying, why are you adding another fee? Tell me why I have to pay another fee. And that's why I brought this up, that we've got to have a good discussion, a good explanation for
And I
that, to
think-
convince them that they need to pay it.
And I
You know,
think honestly.
Because those gentlemen here, town council's gonna have to, they're gonna hear it when it comes time to actually impose the fee.
I agree, and I think we've done a good job presenting the facts with the projects that we've got, that we have to do. You know, we got to comply with the state mandate. You know, there's a whole lot of reasons, but yeah, I think we just kind of maybe put a bullet point thing together, so that way we can address those concerns, because, you know, Ken's right. I mean, residents are going to ask questions, developers are going to ask questions. Why do I got to pay this fee? And we need to be able to explain to them, here's why. You may not like the answer, but this is the reality of it, you know, and
The only thing that would probably have a little bit in our favor is this fee is pretty well thought.
right,
We're
right,
way behind.
right.
Is what it amounts to.
You know, we've got the lowest tax rate one of the lowest tax rates in Lake County.
But the point is.
What goes along with that is we can't subsidize the rest of this forever. It's just not, it's not feasible, and it's not a good financial policy.
All the other municipalities have it already.
Correct.
And that water has to go somewhere, right? If it's not done correctly, and
Somebody's
I don't
gotta-
want it in my house or, you know, in the roads, so it has to be done right.
Somebody's gotta pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I think we didn't have any other reports or correspondences. So at this point, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay.